Hello, I'm back. It's Mr. T. I'm going to show you guys today the different tools that we use to do a live stream broadcast. Now, the ultimate goal here with this is that we are going to have everybody know how to set up the equipment to be able to run their own broadcast. It's really not too bad once you know what you're doing, but until you know what you're doing, then it's pretty bad. So to start off, the first thing that we are going to show you is the laptop that we use. This is the laptop. Currently I'm using it to transfer some files. But this Legion laptop, you're always going to find it in the TV studio room on top of our rolling road rack. But this is the most powerful computer that we actually have. And this is what we use to live stream, whether it be a sporting event or whether it be the weekly newscast. So, as of right now, in 2024, because it's just been the new year, as of 2024, this is the computer that we use to live stream. On the back of it, it's got all the inputs and whatnot. I have it set up to where we utilize almost everything, but we are able to use all the stuff with just this laptop. So it's pretty impressive that we're able to do that. Next, part of the broadcast, maybe the first thing you think of is video. Obviously, without video, then we have no broadcast. So, to be able to do video, what we have is this Feel World L2 video switch. Now, what is the point of this device? And guys, the whole purpose of this video, there'll be subsequent videos that show you how to use these things. The purpose of this video is to know what in the heck is all the equipment. So this is just introducing you to the equipment. So this Feel World L2 Plus video switcher, basically what it does is when it's powered on, it's got a screen, it's 4 screens. And that means I can plug 4 different video cameras into this thing. And then what I do, and the way I have it programmed, is I can just push the button and it's going to take whatever feed I have selected. You can see all 4, and that's what's going to put on the computer screen. So when you're watching the live broadcast, you're seeing whichever button we have selected. Now, whoever is controlling this thing is going to have a option of 4 different camera feeds. So they're going to give the feed that they think is best for the broadcast. How does this work? Well, on the back, what you're going to see is there are HDMI inputs. Now, we've already talked about HDMI cables in previous videos, but we're going to talk about them again. When you're doing a live broadcast, the HDMI cable is something that we'll be using frequently because that is how we connect our cameras to this thing. Without being able to connect our cameras to this thing, then we wouldn't be able to have feeds to choose from. So, as you're looking back here, I'll just give a little quick tutorial here. There's 4 different inputs, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All 4 of these inputs are what you would run from the camera to this spot. So input 1 correlates with button 1 on here. So if I ran a camera to input 1, then it's going to be button 1 on the screen. And then obviously same thing with 2, 3, and 4. The HDMI output. So this means that this has to make its way to our computer. If it doesn't make its way to our computer, then our computer doesn't even know it exists. So what this means is this HDMI cable here is an HDMI cable that goes into here, and then it has to go into what's called a capture card, and that's what I'm going to show you next. It goes into a capture card, which then goes into the computer, and that's how the computer recognizes that this thing exists. And then you can choose what you want on here, and it's going to show up on the computer. This last thing here is just the power jack. Once I have a more detailed tutorial about this particular piece of equipment, we'll go into that a little bit more. There is an on and off switch over here. That's how you turn it on. And it is even mountable. You can mount it, which would be kind of cool, but we have to move it around so much that we don't really do that. So that is the L2 Plus Feel World video switch. That's what we use in order to capture our video. Now, like I said, the output on there goes into this thing. This is a capture card. If you're familiar with video games, you have to have a capture card to be able to capture the image that is on your screen. So what this does is it's got an HDMI input. So the video switch goes in here, and then this goes to the computer. So this is a USB. So basically, HDMI cable from the video switch into what we call the the capture card. This is particular one is just a generic one I bought off of Amazon. These typically aren't really too expensive, but the only way you can get from the video switch device to the computer is by going through this and then plugging in the USB slot. Obviously, this whole process, you're going to have to learn how to use what we call OBS, which is Open Broadcast Software. And OBS recognizes this. So when you go to input a source, which this is a source, a video source, it recognizes this, and that's how you get the video onto the computer. Now, that's me high-leveling it. Once I get into actually showing you the program, that will make sense. So, essentially, real quick, you go from this device. Every camera plugs into this. Out of this device, this thing plugs into this. So there's this first, and then there's this, and then it plugs into the computer, which is sitting on this table. So that's the chain that gets it back to the computer. That's how we get video. Next, I want to show you guys, while we're still talking about video, these things. If you ever see these are a wireless transmitter and receiver. So the receiver, which is this one right here, it says receiver at the top, it gets plugged into the video switcher. So there are inputs on here and outputs. You would plug this directly into the video switch. So that is what's going to receive what this thing sends it. Think of it as like a walkie-talkie. This thing is getting plugged into the camera, and once it's plugged into the camera, it is sending that video signal through the air to this thing, which is plugged into the video switch. The video switch takes that video and then allows you to be able to choose it. When we do like football games, it's the best example I can give you. Someone's on the sideline and they're carrying around a camera that has this transmitter connected to their camera. And then this thing is on, and then this thing is on, and it's capturing what this thing is sending it. Okay? These connect to the cameras by, you guessed it, an HDMI cable. HDMI cables are everything we use when we're talking about capturing video. HDMI cable is a video cable. Okay, next. Obviously, if you watch a broadcast of any sort, there is audio. So you have to have something that's going to capture that audio. So you have to have an audio mixing board. If you watch any of the podcast videos on a podcast, this thing is what we use to do the audio for our live broadcast. This is the Tascam Mixcast 4. So again, I don't want to get too in depth on how these things actually work in this video, but to kind of high level it, you have your levels here. You have 4 channels, meaning you can plug 4 microphones in. So 4 people could be talking on a broadcast at once. Generally, if you're doing broadcasts of a sporting event, you have a play-by-play person and a color commentator. The color commentator is the person who provides analysis after the plays and discussion. The play-by-play person is the guy who's like, and the pitch, oh, and it's a strike, strike 3, batters out. That's the guy that says that. That is the play-by-play person. The color commentator is the guy that talks after that. It's like, you know, Jim, it really seems like he's in a slump lately. And then they talk about stats and things like that. But that's an example of play-by-play and color commentating. Now, this board has the inputs on the back. We've already talked about this a little bit in our podcasting video. Your microphone gets plugged into, sorry, it's hard, it's opposite of what I'm looking at. Your microphone gets plugged into here. There's a corresponding headphone jack. So for all 4 microphones, there's 4 headphone jacks. Why is that important? Well, that's because we have these nice, and currently in 2024, we have 3 of these. I'd like to get to where we have 4. But we have these nice headsets. These are Audio-Technica headsets. Very, very nice. They're like professional broadcasting headsets. And these plug in the mic cable. It's basically a cable that's split in 2. So this has a microphone on it. So it's like maybe you've seen like video gaming headsets. Very high quality microphone. If you ever listen to the Now Airing podcast, these are the headsets that we use on the Now Airing podcast. Captures very good audio. And then obviously you can hear the people talking while you're doing your broadcast. So if you're in a noisy gym and people are all yelling about the basketball game and whatnot, and you have a partner that you're talking with, you're going to hear them crystal clear in your head because you're hearing through the microphones. That's what you're hearing. So if you ever do a podcast or a podcast with me or maybe one of your friends or something in class because you've watched the podcast videos, you're going to know that while you're in a podcast, it's kind of strange. You can only hear your voice, you hear the people who have these headsets on, and you'll hear some background noise, but not a whole lot. And the last thing I'll show in this video, actually two more things. This is a pretty important piece of equipment. I'm currently learning a lot more about these, and I'm going to be able to teach you guys a lot more, not only this year, but also next year. I think next year this will be a really huge instrument in the things that we do, because you can do a ton with it. This is called a stream deck. Now, what is the point of this? Well, all these little squares you see on here are buttons, and you can program each of these buttons to do an insane amount of things. So, for example, for the weekly newscast, currently I have these buttons programmed to where every time we switch cameras, I can just push a button and it automatically does it for me. And whenever I push that button, it switches the camera, it pulls up the correct music that plays in the background. And then also within that scene, there's more buttons for pictures. So if, let's say, the sports person is talking about a Cardinals player and they have a picture of the Cardinals player, I can push the button and it's going to prop up that picture of the Cardinals player. Likewise, you can do it with any media. You could pop up any video if you wanted. Now, what's really cool about Stream Decks is, like I said, you can program to do a lot of different things. I think the coolest application that I've seen so far is you can actually program your computer that if you click a button, it's going to record the last 10 seconds of your stream. You click the next button, and then it plays it as an instant replay. Or you could have it compile all of those clips that you've done throughout the game. So maybe let's say I'm watching a basketball game and I push that button every time I see somebody make a shot. It's going to record the last 10 seconds of that, that live stream. And then at the end of the game, let's say that I wanted to be able to show all those clips in a row to show basically the highlights. Anytime I saw a good play, a shot made, it's going to have all those clips ready for me. And then I could show all the highlights from the game right there. Now that's pretty in-depth, and that's going to take some practice and showing you guys how to do that. But that gives you an idea of just how powerful one of these things can be and how much they can enhance your broadcast. Last thing I'm going to show you, and that is the HDMI cables. Now, you guys have seen HDMI cables before. If you have like a Blu-ray player at home, a video game console, you hook those things up with HDMI cables to your television. That's how it works. Now, we have two different types of HDMI cables. We have an HDMI cable that has ends that look just like this, okay, on both sides. So that's just a normal HDMI cable. But then also, this is the same cable here that I'm holding. You have ones that look like this. So if you can see, let's see here. These are right next to each other. This one right here is actually smaller than this one. So it's a mini HDMI with an HDMI. So the HDMI for this would plug into the video mixer, and then the mini HDMI plugs into our video camera. So our Canon XA11s, they take mini HDMI because they don't, their port on there is not an HDMI cable. An HDMI cable wouldn't fit. So you have to have cables that have HDMI normal size to mini HDMI to be able to capture the image off those cameras. Now, I learned early on that if you don't have that, it's okay. They do make this adapter, and I've got some of these adapters, but now I have enough HDMI cables to mini HDMI cables that I can make it work. But essentially what this adapter is it takes a regular size HDMI, you plug it in there. So if you have just a normal HDMI cable, regular size to regular size, you can plug the regular side into here, and then on the other side, it's going to give you a mini HDMI. So it takes it from big to small, essentially. Now, that is going to wrap up and basically give you an idea of the equipment that we use when we do live broadcasting. Remember, it all starts at the computer. That's the hub. Everything then has to plug into the computer. And by saying plug in, it actually just reminded me of one more thing I have to show you. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. This cable is called a mini USB cable. Mini USB cable, normal USB cable is bigger, obviously. Mini is smaller. But this is the cable that we use to hook the audio mixer to the computer. So the video mixer goes to the capture card, and the capture card sends out a USB cable that goes to the computer. The audio mixer goes, there's no capture card for the audio mixer. It plugs directly into the computer, but it uses mini USB. So your quiz is probably going to have a question that says, what kind of cable connects the audio mixer to the computer? The answer would be a mini USB. What kind of cable connects the video mixer to the computer? Kind of a trick question. First, it's got to go into the capture card using an HDMI cable, and then from the capture card, it goes into the computer with a USB cable. Now, my goal this semester, and obviously if you're watching this in subsequent years, my goal is for you guys to be able to get hands-on and actually show me that you can set this up. I know some people learn better that way. Me personally, I watched videos to learn how to do this, and then I had to just set it up all myself. Now, I failed a lot. I failed a lot learning how to do this, but I've gotten to the point now where we can have a live broadcast, and I know enough to be able to teach you guys how to do it. So, understand that, you know, the world of technology is changing all the time, so to keep up with it, you have to keep learning. So, we can do a lot more now than we could even when I first started teaching TV Studio just 3 years ago. So, it's really exciting if you're a tech nerd like me, and if you're interested in learning how this works. My big goal with TV Studio, and something that I've always been very passionate about, is that whenever people watch the stuff that we do, I want them to think, dang, how did they do that? I don't actually know how that works. How did they do a live broadcast? How did they put together an entire monthly newscast? How did they actually do that? And the truth of the matter is, a lot of people just have no clue how any of this works. So, I hope you found the video at least informative, and I hope you're excited to learn about all those devices that I just showed you, and actually get your hands on them and be able to put it together yourself and be able to do your own broadcast. Have a great day.